The sun shone over the quiet suburbs, painting the morning with golden hues and gently warming the peaceful streets. Inside the house, Mike Tyson, the legendary pugilist who once terrorized the ring, now enjoyed the simple pleasures of life alongside his family. Among these moments, none was more precious to him than time spent with his 19-year-old daughter, Maya. The young woman brought joy to the Tyson household, her presence lighting up the environment, and the bond between father and daughter was unbreakable. That morning, Maya was getting ready to go out and buy snacks for the much-anticipated movie night with her father. With a smile on her lips, she grabbed the car keys and turned to Mike, teasing him with her typical playful energy. "Dad, I'm going to get the snacks. Popcorn, soda, or maybe chips and a special dip. What do you think?" Mike laughed, a deep and warm sound that resonated throughout the house. "Surprise me, Maya. But don't take too long. I might end up getting bored without you around." The two exchanged a knowing glance before Maya left. She drove through the tree-lined streets until she reached the local market. It was one of those ordinary days when people walked calmly through the aisles, choosing fruits, vegetables, and other groceries. The atmosphere seemed safe and familiar. Maya parked the car and entered the market. While selecting some products, her eyes caught a figure that made her feel slightly uneasy. Officer Riley, a police officer known in the town for his authoritative stance and often questionable actions, was watching her from afar. His reputation wasn't the best, especially among those who had suffered firsthand his hostile and often discriminatory approaches. Maya tried to ignore him and continue her shopping, but it didn't take long for him to approach. His look, filled with disdain, made his intentions clear before he even opened his mouth. "Do you have permission to be walking around here?" Riley asked, his voice sharp and full of contempt. Maya took a deep breath, maintaining her composure. "I'm just shopping like everyone else." But Riley didn't seem satisfied. He moved even closer, narrowing his eyes. "Don't get smart with me, girl. People like you think you can just walk around like you own the place." Maya felt the tension rise. Her heart raced, but she kept her tone firm. "I didn't do anything wrong. I just want to buy what I need and leave." She tried to walk away, but Riley blocked her path, his posture becoming even more aggressive. "Show me your ID, now." The sudden demand caught Maya by surprise. Her instinct told her it wasn't a legitimate request, but rather an intimidation tactic. Still, she opened her purse to retrieve the document. However, before she could hand it over, Riley lost his patience. "Come on, don't make me wait," he shouted, his voice turning into a threat. Maya felt a wave of indignation wash over her. She pulled out her phone and started recording. "You're harassing me. I didn't do anything to deserve this treatment." Riley's expression darkened further. He leaned forward, his voice reduced to a venomous whisper. "You want to make things difficult? I can make them a lot worse for you." The tension in the air was palpable. People around began to whisper, realizing the situation was becoming dangerous. However, Maya did not back down. "I'm recording this," she said, her voice steady. Riley growled in anger. "Turn off that phone, now." But Maya didn't relent. With a sudden movement, Riley lunged and snatched the phone from her hand, throwing it to the ground. The sound of the screen breaking echoed through the market. Shock and indignation overwhelmed Maya. "You can't do this," she protested. "You should protect people, not attack them." Riley's expression turned cold and cruel. "You want to pay for what you did? Then you'll pay now." Before Maya could react, a violent punch struck her left cheek. The force of the blow made her lose her balance and fall to the ground. Pain exploded across her face as a murmur of shock and horror spread through the market. Some people began to scream. Others pulled out their phones to record the brutality they had just witnessed. Maya, dazed, placed her hand on her face as tears welled up in her eyes. Fear and anger mixed in her chest. "Someone help me." Her voice came out weak. Riley, on the other hand, showed no remorse. He just smiled sardonically. "No one is going to help you." But he was wrong. On the other side of the city, Mike Tyson was enjoying his quiet morning until his phone buzzed on the table. Upon answering, an urgent and alarmed voice took over the other end of the line. "Mr. Tyson, you need to come to the market now. Your daughter was assaulted by a police officer." Mike's world froze for a second. His heart raced, and a wave of fury took over his body. He grabbed the car keys and rushed out of the house. His body, once trained for the fiercest combats in the world, was now driven by a single instinct: to protect his daughter. The anger he once used in the ring now burned in his veins in an even more intense way. Upon arriving at the market, the scene before him made his blood boil. Maya was sitting on the sidewalk, her cheeks swollen and tears streaming down her face. People around were outraged, some holding up phones, recording everything. In the middle of the crowd, Riley's arrogant figure appeared with a mocking smile. "Oh, so this is your father? Looks like disrespect runs in the family." Those words were the final spark. Mike Tyson took a step forward, his eyes fixed on the officer. His presence dominated the space, his breathing heavy and controlled, as if holding a fierce animal ready to be unleashed. "What the hell did you do to my daughter?" he asked, his voice as deep as thunder about to break. Riley, encouraged by the crowd, decided to provoke further. "She needed to learn a lesson, maybe you do too." The crowd held their breath. Everyone knew what was coming next. Riley threw a punch. It was a mistake. Mike dodged with the ease of someone who had dedicated his life to fighting. With a fluid movement, he evaded and countered with a devastating blow. The impact made Riley stumble backward, his smile disappearing in an instant. The crowd erupted in applause, and Mike Tyson's revenge was just beginning. The impact of Mike Tyson's punch reverberated through the market, like thunder cutting through the sky before a storm. Officer Riley staggered backward, his head spinning, eyes wide with pure shock. He had never been hit so hard before. For a moment his mind refused to accept that this was happening, that a mere civilian, a retired boxer, dared to confront him like this. But Mike Tyson was no ordinary civilian. He was a force of nature, a man who had spent his life turning muscles into weapons and blows into sentences. The crowd, once scared by Riley's brutality against Maya, was now exploding in applause and shouts of support. "That's it, Tyson. Teach him a lesson. This guy deserved it. He thought he could abuse power forever." "Justice. Finally justice." Riley regained his balance, feeling the metallic taste of blood spreading in his mouth. His pride was hurt, and his anger grew with every beat of his heart. He spat on the ground and tried to regain composure. "You," he muttered, his voice trembling, still trying to process the blow. "You made a big mistake, Tyson." Mike took a step forward, his eyes burning with silent fury. Every muscle in his body was prepared for Riley's next move. He wouldn't say another word. The time for words had passed. Riley, injured and humiliated, tried to regain control of the situation. He pulled the baton from his waist, his face contorted in fury. "You think you can attack me and get away with it?" Riley shouted, swinging the baton in a threatening motion. "I am the law here." Mike remained impassive. He had faced stronger, faster, deadlier opponents than the man before him. Riley was just another thug with a badge. The officer attacked first. With a quick movement, he raised the baton and swung it down with all his might, aiming for Mike's head. But Tyson was no ordinary man. He moved his body with the precision of an experienced fighter, dodging to the side at the last second. The blow missed, hitting only air. Before Riley could react, Mike launched an uppercut straight to the officer's stomach. The impact made Riley double over in pain, his body wavering as he tried to catch his breath. But Tyson didn't give him time. With the same speed that had made him famous in the ring, he delivered a precise hook to the side of Riley's face, making the officer collapse to the ground like a sack of sand. The crowd went wild. "My God!" He knocked down the officer. "That was beautiful." Riley groaned, trying to get up, but his legs trembled, his vision blurred from the impact of the blows. For the first time, he felt the taste of impotence. He who had always abused power was now on the ground before a crowd witnessing his failure. Mike took a deep breath, remaining over Riley, his fists still clenched. Every fiber of his body wanted to continue, to ensure that this man would never hurt anyone again. But then he heard Maya's voice. "Dad." His heart ached as he saw his daughter still sitting on the sidewalk, holding her bruised face. The anger in her eyes dissipated, giving way to something deeper, a father's unconditional love for his daughter. Before he could reach her, the shrill sound of sirens cut through the air. Police cars sped in, skidding to a stop in front of the market. Police officers quickly exited the vehicles, some with their hands on their weapons ready to contain the situation. "Hands up," one of the officers ordered. "Now," the crowd protested. "No, you're arresting the wrong guy. This officer assaulted a girl. We have everything recorded." The officers hesitated upon seeing the popular revolt. One of them looked at Riley, still lying on the ground, his face swollen, trying to regain his posture. He approached the injured officer. "Riley, what happened here?" the officer asked suspiciously. Riley pointed to Tyson, spitting on the ground once more. "He attacked me. He hit me for no reason. I want you to arrest him right now." But before the officers could do anything, one of the spectators, still recording, stepped forward and raised his phone. "That's not true. We have everything here. This guy assaulted Tyson's daughter first." Others in the crowd raised their phones, showing recordings of the exact moment Riley punched Maya without provocation. One of the officers grabbed one of the videos and watched it, his face growing increasingly serious. "Damn." He turned to the other officers and nodded. "Arrest Riley." The spectators erupted in cheers of approval as the officers grabbed Riley and handcuffed him. "You are under arrest for assault and abuse of authority." "What? This is a mistake. He attacked me. I'm the victim." Riley protested, but no one seemed to pay attention to his words. As he was placed in the police car, the crowd jeered. "Now see what it's like on the other side, Riley. Justice was served." Mike finally knelt beside Maya. He held her face gently, his eyes filled with concern. "Are you okay, my daughter?" Maya smiled slightly despite the pain. "With a father like you, I'll always be okay." He pulled her into a tight embrace. The surrounding crowd began to clap, applauding not only Tyson's strength, but also Maya's courage in facing Riley. The phones were still recording, and news of the incident quickly began to spread across social media. Within hours, the video of the confrontation went viral. Millions of people watched as a corrupt police officer was exposed and a father protected his daughter with everything he had. Mike Tyson's name was back in the headlines, but this time not for a fight in the ring, but for a much more important battle. That night, back at the Tyson family home, Maya was nestled on the couch, still a bit sore but relieved. Mike sat beside her, turning on the television so they could finally watch the movie they had planned. Maya turned to him, a playful smile on her lips. "So, what about the snacks?" Mike raised an eyebrow. "After everything that happened, you're still thinking about food?" She laughed, resting her head on his shoulder. "Dad, if there's one thing I learned today, it's that nothing can spoil our movie night." Mike smiled, putting his arm around her shoulders, holding her affectionately. "You're stronger than you think, my daughter." And with that, they finally pressed play, ready to enjoy the peace they so deserved. As the movie played, Mike looked at Maya and smiled. Despite everything they had gone through that day, there they were, together, safe. The news of the confrontation spread rapidly, with thousands of people supporting Tyson for defending his daughter. Riley's name was already in the headlines, his badge revoked, his career destroyed. Maya rested her head on her father's shoulder. "Thank you for everything, Dad." Mike kissed her forehead. "Always, my girl." And there, in the cozy silence of the living room, father and daughter finally had the peace they so deserved.